Welcome back to Conversations with Cohen. As a real estate advisor to law firms, I found my clients, who are mainly managing partners and COOs, sharing with me the issues they faced running their organizations. So I created this podcast to help my clients by interviewing subject matter experts on the topics that matter most right now to them. One of those topics include improving operating efficiency, reducing associate burnout, and how mentoring can be done in a hybrid work environment. So with that, I'd like to introduce you to Abdi Shayesteh, the CEO of AltaClaro. As we like to do at the beginning of every episode, Abdi, we'd love for you to introduce yourself.
Good morning, Greg. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me. I'm Abdi Shayesteh, CEO and founder of AltaClaro, and I practiced corporate and banking law for over 15 years. I worked in a variety of settings. I was at King & Spalding here in New York as a transactional lawyer. I was also a lawyer at the Federal Reserve in New York. And then I also went in-house as general counsel for a global bank, MUFG Bank of Tokyo. And I'm also the founder of AltaClaro, which we'll talk about in a few minutes about the journey, the pain that I went after to solve.
Yeah, I'd love to hear it. So there you were. You're in big law. You're corporate America, and what happens? You identify a problem.
I think you set the setting perfectly. Yes, there I was in big law, middle of Manhattan. I thought I had arrived and graduated from law school and realized, geez, I do not know anything, right? I spent over $100,000 on my legal education, and the stuff about contract review, due diligence, managing a deal and start to finish, all this stuff, they didn't teach you in law school, right? So they taught you how to think like a lawyer, but this actual stuff you're supposed to learn on the job. We had well-intentioned mentors inside the firm, but they were all busy, right? They naturally were billing, they were trying to bring in business, they were managing a global practice. To be able to sit down and walk me through how this contract works or how this negotiation should play out or how I should do this and that, it took up a lot of time, for them to do that. I got lucky that I found some mentors, but that's when I realized that why should luck, be the basis of your success, especially after investing so much in your career. And there were others that did not get so lucky inside the firm. Some folks were getting, deals after deals, which is great, but a lot of folks, just because, just by nature of unfortunate, sometimes unconscious bias, or sometimes just natural reflexes, they wouldn't get the same exposure. So I really started to wonder, gosh, wouldn't it be great if you had this place where you can go and you can learn through a mock setting, a mock transaction, get feedback on your simulated work product, even have like a professional coach. Kind of like, if you're in college, you have a tutor that helps you out. Why not have one in your professional career? But at any rate, this was just a fantasy. I went on, had a great legal career, moved through the ranks and became a senior lawyer. And then it came time for me to train young lawyers. And boy, I saw how challenging that was, because you can't do this just by, imagine trying to teach someone how to swim by showing them PowerPoint slides, or trying to lecture, right? And say, when you're in the water, do this. It's not going to work. You got to put them either in the water, right? Or, at least in the shallow end, right? And teach us some techniques and make them, try it out before going out into the deep end. And so that's what I was doing. I was taking old deal documents, taking away client names and creating fact patterns and running young lawyers through it. And it worked. And then I realized, geez, I just spent all my billable time this week on training. And that's a lot of money on the table. It's $1,000 an hour that I was billing, that I was foregoing to put together meaningful programs. And even if I did it in New York, I realized, geez, my colleague in Texas didn't have the time that I did. And so now we have this disparity across the firm. And that's when I really started to look at this problem, Greg. And I thought, geez, we ought to find a way to solve this problem, not just certainly for the young lawyer, but also for the firm as they're trying to recruit, train, and retain their talent. And that was the impetus behind AltaClaro.
So there you are. You're in this seat and you're thinking, okay, I've got this idea. You're probably at that point thinking, well, let me talk to some other folks about it who are in the industry. What was the initial feedback of like, hey guys, hey Sally, hey John, I got this idea. What do you think? What was it from your peers? What did they think?
Yeah, so great question, because there were 2 points of inquiries that I started to make. One was looking at what the market was doing in other verticals, right? And there was this massive digital transformation taking shape in the education space in other verticals. There were platforms online where people were going and they were getting certified, they were getting upskilled, they were enhancing their career. And I thought, geez, none of this exists in the legal sector. I mean, what existed were these brick and mortar, old school, conference halls where you go and you sit and you listen to someone speak for hours, and right. And if there's anything online what they did was they filmed that session. Now you didn't have to go to it. They just posted that video with terrible audio, and it wasn't engaging. It wasn't dynamic. It wasn't interactive, and it didn't take you, in a simulated deal or environment. So anyway, I saw that these things were happening elsewhere, so I knew that it was possible to leverage technology to find best ways in education science to do this. But you're absolutely right. I needed to talk to folks. And so I talked to 100 people, senior lawyers, junior lawyers, partners, firm administrators, professional development folks. And just one by one, first of all, just validated the pain, and then tried to get feedback on how I was going to solve this issue, right? And then try to identify what the obstacles were in their mind, right? Firms are like, well, how are we going to teach them my way? Well, listen, if you're trying to learn how to swim and you're a beginner, you're going to have Michael Phelps teach you the beginner stuff? No, there's certain beginner stuff that no matter where you are, it's bread and butter, right? What a rep is, what a warranty is, how operating provisions work. Let's just talk about that layer first. So we started to overcome those misperceptions in those conversations. They're like, oh yeah, you're right. I guess, you get to Michael Phelps later after you've learned the fundamentals. Okay,
and I want to hit pause for a second, because if there's somebody who's listening now, I want to fast forward for a moment and say, of the fill in the blank of the AmLaw 200 firms right now, how many are clients?
Yeah, we have 40 firms in the AmLaw 200.
Okay, so stay with us here, because from an early idea to where we are now is, to me, that 40 of those 200 offers credibility that there has been adoption of this. So I just wanted to say that, instead of for someone who's listening to say, well, this sounds like a great idea, but it doesn't work for me. It's working for a lot of firms right now. So sorry, I just wanted to interject.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I appreciate that. You're absolutely right. There are firms that are now our clients, and they've been our clients for over a year, that are in the AmLaw 25, AmLaw 50. And these are firms where people initially said, no, there's no way that this sounds fine, but it may not be relevant for them. But it turned out that it is, because the way we do it, not only is it effective, but it's efficient. So yeah, I talked to a lot of people to get the feedback, but then it was about creating the product and getting feedback from people using it. So there's a lot of talk you can have, but once you start to get the product in the hands of folks, that's when you get real feedback on this stuff.
So who is your target audience? And when you say getting into the hands of the people, so who are the people who use your product?
Yeah, our users are the associates, but the purchasers right now of our programs are the firms. And right now we currently have courses in corporate, capital markets, and mergers and acquisitions, but we're also launching some courses this year in real estate transactions, technology transactions, startup law transactions, e-discovery. And in every course, there's a mock deal, a mock assignment that you normally would see land on your desk for your first few years. And you go through it, you work on it, you get your hands dirty, you get feedback on it. And so, yeah, those users, those actual students, if you may, are associates in the currently those in the years 1 through 4 category. That's our focus right now. Eventually, we'll get into years 1 through 10. But years one through four are newbies, fresh out of law school, just landed. Then there are those who've been there for a couple of years, but they haven't got a spectrum of experience. They need gap fillers, or they need experience in a couple of other things in order to really advance in their competency trajectory. Then there's laterals, folks who used to be litigators, and they thought, that's it. I've been in it for 4 years. I'd like to be a deal lawyer. Is it too late? No, there are firms who put them in our program to get their hands dirty and learning this stuff. And look, I think a big win for us are diverse attorneys. These are women, these are people of color, these are people that traditionally have left the firm. And one of the number one reasons they have left is because they weren't getting enough training. And why is that, right? It's because the way you learn this stuff is getting thrown into matters. And so unconscious bias was causing this, bringing the same people on the same deals. A lot of people were getting left out. And then when they were given the opportunity, they didn't have the confidence to actually raise their hand and do it. So our programs give diverse attorneys a leg up to raise their hand because we put them through mock scenarios and mock deals and give them feedback. Now they have the confidence to say, I can do this, or I know that I know what an asset purchase agreement looks like. So anyway, we're helping them. And if you really look at just it overall, the new generation of lawyers, they're expecting these things. They're expecting to get trained inside these firms. Otherwise, they're leaving. And they have a lot of demands because they're used to training in certain ways. And so firms are recognizing that they got to make their associates happy. And the number one reason associates leave after 4 years is because they didn't get enough training. Yeah.
So they have there are training programs in law firms. So does this supplement or complement those programs?
This augment. Yeah. Our job is not to replace internal training. Our goal is to help augment internal training. And the way we see it is that when it comes to the fundamentals of these things, that's where we come in and do it, right? And so then that leaves space for any internal training to be on the more advanced stuff, on the more nuanced stuff, right? That's where you could even train on the job. I mean, at 11 o'clock at night, you don't want to be explaining what a rep is or a warranty is or how a confidentiality provision works. We do that. And then so now 11 o'clock at night, if you have to explain something, you don't have to start from ground zero, right? And that's why these firms are appreciating what we're doing. We're leveling out the playing field. We're increasing the playing field as well, so that whenever there is on-the-job teaching or internal training, they now, have to spend less time on it, right? And they have to, the other thing is, associates spin their wheels, right? If the first time you've seen an NDA, you may spend 10 hours on it, not knowing heads or tails. We help bring that down to about 3 hours, right? Because now they've done an NDA, they've marked it up on a client scenario, got feedback on it. They know heads or tails of what this document is. They're also able to ask the right questions when they're given the assignment. So there's a lot less time spent and wasted, right? Otherwise, you have to write that time off, right? I write all this time up and correct the mistakes, mentor the young lawyer. All that adds up, right? And so we're bringing these efficiencies into these firms, which is helping them a lot.
It really, if I have to simplify it, it adds more billable hours. The opportunity for either more billable hours, or two, a greater work-life balance.
That's right. And then you hit it on the head. First of all, your billable hours are going to be more. They're going to stick. Yes, you're going to become more efficient, but your billable hours are not going to be written off, right? When the client looks at that bill, or the partner has to evaluate the bill. And then you're right. There's a better work-life balance, because one of the number one reasons attorneys burn out is because they're spinning their wheels and they're stressed. And so we help bring the fear level down because the confidence level goes up. And they're spending less time spinning their wheels, so that we actually do help with this wellness element of your associates as well too. Yeah.
So can you give us a real world example of how this was implemented, so that we can sort of see it from beginning to end, and it's not at the end, but from the beginning to where it is now in an organization, in a law firm?
Yeah, absolutely. There's several we're creating these success stories all the time. But yeah, there are firms that started out with us, and they started perhaps with a pilot, a small pilot in an office, and they got feedback right away from their associates how helpful this was, and then they deployed it firm wide, which was not just the U.S. but it was also globally. And then the feedback they continued to get across the firm was that this has really helped me, get my confidence. This has really helped me spend less time. This has really helped me, sort of now jump in the game, because we create these sessions where they can ask instructors anything they want. Right now, this is another dynamic that if that training was internally with someone who was your supervisor, right, then sometimes people are shy to raise their hand and ask questions. They're going to get judged. So we create this space in our program, in the live sessions, where you can ask, highly vetted practitioners any question you want about these things. So we're creating this space for their associates to really kind of own their career trajectory, have confidence to do more work and better work. And so now the firm has come back and said, this is great. What else can you do for us? This is how we're developing new courses, because they said, we want courses in lending transactions. We want courses in real estate transactions. And so we're getting the wish list, and we're going back to all of our clients and asking for their wish list to create these new courses. So I see that as a big success. I've also seen where associates at one firm have told associates at another firm about what they got at their firm, and that other firm said, "I'm interested in learning about AltaClaro." I thought that was really cool, and we now have that other firm as a client, and then inside firms too, where one practice group is, because right now we have courses in these practice areas. The other practice group says, "Oh, I want what they have," and that's what's causing this sort of, "Oh, can you create more courses in these other practice areas?" So it's really good to see that. Very humbled and very grateful.
It means you're onto something.
Yes, word of mouth is the best way, right?
So I guess I have a few questions that came up from that, but I would imagine one potential stumbling block or hurdle is some firm might say, well, how do we know you're going to be around tomorrow if we're going to implement your product into our infrastructure, if you will? So I don't know, maybe that hasn't come up in conversations, but if it has, maybe you can speak to that and what the response to that is.
Yeah, I mean, we've enjoyed 500% growth from 2020 and going into 2021, and now in 2022, our growth plans are still, they're there. We're going to continue to grow, and we've just recently did a major financing round with two leading VCs, one in the ed tech sector, LearnStart, which is family of Learn Capital. They are the backers behind Coursera, one of the leading ed tech companies, as well as Bryce Catalyst, which is a leading legal tech VC. So we now are backed by institutional investors that not only believe in what we've done, but they believe in the trajectory of our growth. I'm also been grateful that throughout this journey, we've brought on to our team and our advisors, really established people from both the legal and education space. So my COO, Rick Rattray, he's a former executive of Kaplan, as well as he also was an executive at Barbary. And he really comes from the education side and scaling companies to a global level. And really grateful to have him on the team, but also on our advisory. Former president of Bloomberg Law, Scott Mazarski, is on our advisory team. Also LexisNexis executive, Alex Withers. Also have folks on the education side, Ahmed Haig, one of the co-founders of Trilogy, which was the largest ed tech acquisition by 2U. So we're poised to take this for the long run and continue to grow in the legal sector. We want to be there, in all years of a lawyer's career trajectories. As you start to become a senior lawyer, the skills you need to learn there, and as you become a partner, we want to be there to help with that journey.
And for the the segment of the legal community who you're meeting now or have been meeting in the last 6 to 12 months, I'd love to hear what their biggest objections have been, and what your responses to them are, because there may be people who are listening who have some of those objections, and I want to give you the opportunity to be able to respond to them, so that it's just not a dead end before it's an opportunity.
Yeah. So, the natural initial objections come, well, we could do this internally, right? And that's when you do that cost benefit analysis, and you realize, well, lawyers are busy, senior lawyers are busy trying to get them to create a program with this level of deftness, is challenging for them with their billable hour, requirements and so forth. And then, as I mentioned, that for them to once they realize this is the bread and butter of things, the fundamentals of things, and that we're teaching them with our vetted practitioners they've all practiced for 10 years or more in an AmLaw 100 firm. They've all been vetted for their teaching ability. We put instructors through a mock teaching session. We evaluate their ability to explain things, to have empathy skills, to have engagement skills. So we really make a safe place for folks to learn. So they start to see the level of engagement, and the number of firms that have signed up for this, and the feedback from them. Their objections go away because they realize, this is something that if I were to create it, I would do it this way. And these guys are doing it. They're doing it successfully. Firms are spending on average, this is actually data, I don't know if you're familiar, $400,000 for every associate. This is in the firms in the AmLaw, up to 400. But they're spending about $400,000 over a period of 4 years in recruiting, training associates. And then they're seeing their associates walk out the door, right? So they know and the firms are telling us it's a strategic imperative for training and development. So they know they got to do this, and they see us doing it with doing it well and doing it with others. The other part is, in our live sessions, Greg, we invite leaders from the firms to sit in on the sessions to add to the conversation. So, every class has a 3-pronged approach. You watch an hour's worth of self-paced on-demand videos. That's where you're learning the principles and concepts of things. The second part, you're doing an assignment based on the real world. It's self-paced. Here's your client. They're about to engage in this transaction. You got to dive in and mark up documents and review documents and submit it in the portal. But that third part of the class is when you enter a live session to get feedback from our vetted practitioners on the simulated work product. We invite senior leaders from the firm to sit in on the sessions to add to the conversation. Once you learn what a rep is and what a warranty is, now let's talk about what the firm sees, right? So we invite the firms to get involved, and that also eliminates the objection, because when they sit in, they're like, oh, wow, that's great. That was a great session. I learned, some senior lawyers will say, I learned a lot in that session myself, but I was able to add color. I was able to say, at our firm, we see these types of clients, and so this particular thing, we may come at it this way. So that creates, now we're saving them time. We're also ensuring it, they get a chance to participate in it. So that's another thing that kind of eliminates any objection. Yeah.
That's very helpful. I appreciate that insight.
Yeah.
Well, I'm watching the clock. I want to be respectful of your time. I want to say thank you so much to you for taking the time to spend some time with us today. Abdi, how do people get in touch with you if they want to reach out?
Yeah, Abdi at AltaClaro. And you can also go on the website, altaclaro.com, where you can see, our course list and how our programs work. And then happy to connect. You can book a call it'll come to me. And that I look forward to the opportunity just to have an exploratory conversation and share.
How did you choose the name AltaClaro?
Yeah, I was in Spain at the time, and claro means clear, and everybody, when you're talking to them, they say claro, clear, right? I understand. And so alta means high, and I thought, this is about getting highly clear on what you know and what you need to know, and that's where this idea came. It was like, that's what AltaClaro does. It helps you become clear on what you need to know and what you know.
What a great way to end the show. Thanks again, Abdi, for joining us today. This has been Greg Cohen with Cressa, and this is Conversations with Cohen. Don't forget to leave a comment, to share with us what topics you'd like me to cover next. Connect with us on LinkedIn and Instagram, and we'll see you next time. Thanks again.
Thank you, Greg.